everyone. My name is Anna Violin, and I'm here to talk about Brown New Tone Overture today. By a show of hands, who has heard of Overture before? Awesome, about half the room, awesome. So an even easier question for you all, by a show of hands, who breathes air? Great. You can leave your hands up for this next question because I'd like to know who farts? Yeah, all right, those hands can stay up. So this is what's going on in our homes, right? This is something we all do, right? Stinky, smelly, but all these contaminants come off, right, when we actually do this. Staying inside of our four walls. Outside of farting, though, what is in our homes? These are volatile organic compounds, VOCs. VOCs are going to be one of the top pollutants that we have in our homes. We're going to talk about what VOCs are given off in all of the building materials that you all use on a daily basis and new construction and remodels. Thinking about all the products that our homeowners actually use as well when it comes to putting in, moving into their new home. What are they bringing in? They're bringing in new rugs. They're bringing in chairs. They're bringing in furniture. They're bringing in, their new kitchen table. These are all giving off VOCs. And these VOCs are harmful to our lungs. They're harmful to the air. We're all breathing it in because can we see the air that we breathe? We can't. If we could, we might actually have a little bit more awareness around the air that we breathe, right? If we can't see it, out of sight, out of mind. So VOCs are being given off at every single point in our home, especially in the new construction or remodel when these people are bringing in new products, even when we're cleaning. So moving to the home, cleaning, making sure everything's ready to go for our homeowners. We want it to be spick and span, all the products that we use to clean, maybe even trying to freshen up the air we use Febreze. I mean, that's giving off VOCs, right? But we love the smell. I'm a lavender fan myself. I love those products, but they are giving off VOCs. So just even more harmful, just constantly giving it off in our home. Any Amazon Prime people out here in the crowd? Yeah, I'm definitely an Amazon Primer myself. I probably have a couple packages waiting for me. It's so easy. But if you think about that, I'm actually delivering VOCs right to my very front door. So all of our homeowners are doing the same thing. And you're like, Anna, okay, VOCs, we get it. What else do we got going on in our homes? There's more pollutants than VOCs that we have going on. We have CO2. So we take in oxygen and we breathe out a lot of CO2. If you can't tell, I'm a talker. My home office is filled with CO2, absolutely. And there's other, we have all parts. We are entertaining. We have family game night. Maybe mom and dad are having guests over, hanging out in the living room. CO2 levels are rising. CO2 is also detrimental to our mental health. We also give off, humidity. We all take showers, I think, or hope, but in our bathrooms, we have humidity levels rising. And what does humidity cause? It causes mildew. It causes mold buildup in our bathrooms. So all of these areas in the home, now we have increased humidity. We also have increased levels of PM 2.5. And every time I say PM 2.5, I'm like, oh my gosh, that term. Think of everything coming off of your cooking surface, right? Everything, all the contaminants that come off of the cooking surface. If you don't have proper ventilation, then those are going into our lungs, perhaps sticking, to the cabinets above, the countertops around. So how do we get rid of all these pollutants? How do we make our homes healthy? Well, we do that through proper ventilation. You guys are already installing bathroom vent fans. You're already installing range hoods, possibly fresh air systems if you're in an area that's, either mandated or perhaps you have the customer who can put in that ERV. Those products are already being installed in the home. Now, how many of our customers actually use them, right? We see so many of our homeowners say, okay, I've got peeling on my walls or, build up of steam on the walls, because guess what? Who has kids in here that turn on their exhaust fans when they get into the shower? Yeah. Then a lot of them do not. They do not use the fan. So we have to think about that not all of our homeowners are the same. We have homeowners that are they're building new. It's maybe their second home, but they're building a brand new home, and it's just a young couple. Maybe they take, to-go food more often than cooking, right? So the range hood space might not be, a big contaminant for them. But then you have the family of 6 plus a dog who's giving off, all of what we just talked, all the humidity. We have 6 showers instead of 2 showers, so the humidity's level is rising. If we're cooking more, the contaminants in the kitchen are rising. Not to mention pets. I have 2 dogs myself, and the amount of dirt and gunk and grime they bring in from outside that is on the floor, I am constantly vacuuming or Swiffering, giving off VOCs, right, while doing this. But our pets bring in so much more than we think. And in addition to that, our homeowners aren't the same. Not all rooms are the same. So we certainly have parts of our home that are actually higher traffic areas. Naturally, our kitchens, our living rooms, areas where we're spending more quality time with our family, where we're hanging out, watching sports, go Chiefs. I mean, it's like all the things that we have going on in the home. So in our bathrooms, kids not using the exhaust fan, what do? They won't turn the thing on. Well, if I had to tell my fiance one more time to turn on the range hood, this is something that was constantly happening. So he's so adamant about heating up his pots and pans, right, on the cooking surface. And then he loves to go and he dices the peppers and the onions. And I love it. He gets to cook. I get to sit. It's great. He is so good about turning on the cooktop, the burners. But for some reason, can't turn on the vent fan. And I'm like, every time I hear him turn on the cooktop, I say, Ben, please turn on the range hood. So instead of going to couples therapy, we actually installed Overture, because Overture actually automates your indoor air quality. So I no longer have to yell at Ben to turn on the range hood, because as soon as the oils are heating up, before he's even put food on there, contaminants are already getting in the air. And the reason that this is being automated is because Overture has sensors that allow that indoor air to be taken out of the home. Those pollutants are already going out of the home. I don't have to say to turn on the range hood anymore. Or for the kiddos that forget to turn on the exhaust fan, right? They go into the bathroom, they're so excited, they go turn on the shower. Humidity levels are already rising as soon as the shower's turned on. And we all like taking a nice hot shower, so that steam is increasing. So when you install Overture in the bathroom, turns on the shower and the humidity levels rise, it already turns on that vent fan. It is peace of mind that we are getting those pollutants out of the home. Mold and mildew are not growing in your child's bathroom because the exhaust fan is turning on because you have Overture installed. And the beautiful part about Overture, 4 products, all that work interconnected via Wi-Fi to automate your entire indoor air quality. I said you guys are already installing the bathroom vent fans. You're already installing range hoods. You're possibly already installing ERVs. Allow Overture to automate that entire process for you. Homeowners want clean indoor air. We want them to be breathing clean indoor air. So if we can get the sensors placed that connect to any brand to automate their indoor air so that they don't have to worry about anyone turning on the range hood themselves manually, turning on the bath fan that they always forget, then we're giving them the freshest air possible. So if you guys want to make your clients' lives happier and healthier, then install Overture. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Anna. That's a really difficult act to follow. I don't think we have any fart slides, unfortunately. So with that, I want to jump right into it and introduce the panel real quick. If you guys could introduce yourselves, maybe a brief overview of who you are, what you do, and why you're here, and Paul, we'll start with you.
Great. Paul Cardis with On3 and Build Care. We do customer service, customer surveys, as well as construction education with both of those companies.
Yeah, I'm Kevin Roach with Bravas. We're a national home automation company. We have locations in 13 different cities, and we serve over 2,000 cities across the U.S. and abroad. And we help deploy this technology that you guys partner with and deploy into your homes. Very excited to be here.
I'm Joey Kolchinsky. I'm CEO of OneVision Resources. We run and operationalize service departments for integrators like Bravas in order to help them provide the best 24/7 support and priority attention to their clients and homes around the country.
My name is David Gordon. I'm with Aspire Fine Homes. We build luxury custom homes in Houston, Texas. We build 10 to 12 homes a year. They've asked me to be on the panel just to kind of give some feedback and kind of help and see if I can't guide them and add some value.
So the goal here today is to try and help you understand the problems that we experience when it comes to completing systems. So turning over the finished product, the finished technology solutions to the homeowner, how we train them, how we support them after the sale, how we upgrade. Really a solid understanding of how this process currently works, what we're doing to provide excellence in that category now, and then maybe a glimpse into the future and what that could hold for us. So with that, Paul, let you drive for a minute here. If you could talk about the customer experience from your experience.
Absolutely, yeah. So when we talk about service, really we have to take a step back here and say, okay, what are the problems? Like, how many of you out there struggle right now with your customers in terms of home automation, setup, dealing with those issues? Is that an issue for anybody out there? We got 2, okay, but I think we probably have more. Well, it's a big deal. You can't brush it under the rug, right? Because we're in a world that referrals are key, especially now. We got interest rates that are reaching incredible highs now. Referrals are going to be really the cornerstone of where you go with this thing. And it's not just the old school referrals. Of course, we have this powerful social media, right? So just framing why we care about the customer, why we care to make sure that everything is going the way it should. Because in the end of the day, if they're out there saying great service, awesome, excellent, hey, I had some problems, but they took care of it, those are the wins, right? And these are the things that are going to sell homes. Now you hear that, but you also have to get active in pushing this out there, and this is what we call referral marketing. And we're not going to touch on this a whole lot today, but the bottom line is that if you set yourself up for success, your customers are happy, you're going to be able to leverage that. And this isn't just theoretical. I actually went and pulled some news articles from the last housing slump, not to depress us, by the way. I know we're trying to have a good time here, but builders were defying the housing slump back when we had the 2007, 8, 9 crash. And one of them in particular that caught my eye was Blandford, right here in Phoenix and Mesa. I remember this was 2009, and the headline was "Veteran Builder Defies the Slump in Housing," and they literally had the news choppers. I lived here; my 2 girls were born here in the Valley. I remember looking up, seeing the choppers. I thought there was a hijacking or a big car accident or something like that. And lo and behold, it was a builder who had a lineup in 2009 to sell homes. It was Blandford Homes. And how does he do that? He's one of the best builders in customer experience. I know Jeff, and he just kills it. He takes care of his buyers. He actually just does it. It's passion for him to do well with his customers. And when the proverbial poop hit the fan, he still sold homes. So this matters. So what we're going to talk about here matters to you. And really, we're going to try and deal with these issues. We're going to get into the weeds here with some of this stuff, and also take a glimpse at what looks like in the future. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our next.
Thanks. So Kevin, let's talk about onboarding real quick before we get into support. So we finished a system for a client. We've done our due diligence to get that far down the pathway. What happens? What goes wrong at that point when we try and transition from the installers finishing to the homeowners moving in?
Yeah, I'm sure you've all experienced this, right? You've got an integrator that's come in, they're installing technology. The client probably doesn't really understand exactly what they're getting, and we're trying to figure out how to get them to a finish line and move them into a support mechanism after the fact. I kind of think things start a little earlier in the process on that. It starts with really partnering with a technology integrator in your area that can identify and help create a very clear scope of work that needs to be done, have a shared vision with the client so that what the integrator thinks they're doing, the homeowner thinks they're getting, the contractor knows what's going on, and making sure that there's kind of an alignment that starts at that level, and then being able to take that process, work through the build process, get them to the end, make sure that we're delivering what we've gone through. And internally for us as Bravas, we have a very specific process that follows along the way, starting with kind of an initial scope of work and a discovery meeting through kind of a 90-day walk previous to when the clients are moving in to refresh their memory on what's happening, and then getting them into a point where we're actually deploying that system. And more than that, actually training them on that system. And we actually have a dedicated trainer with Bravas that comes out. They walk them through exactly what system they have. You know, if it's an app-based thing, we actually send them an invitation to the app to download while we're with them, get them all set up, make sure that they're totally comfortable with it. You know, different people have different tolerances for how they deal with that. And so sometimes it's being very hand-holding to go through that process. And then have a checklist that goes along to make sure that it's perfect, just like you would have with a punch list as you're going through to identify what's left undone and what's completed and making sure that you have a finish line. We're doing the same thing for the client with the technology systems that we're deploying. And then at that point, being able to transfer from our finish and install team into service and support. Internally for Bravas, we have a 2-year warranty for all of our clients. The day that they move into a house, they don't pay a service call or a warranty call for 2 years until we've got everything in there. And we do that because we know that we're building systems that work, that we've done it the right way, and that we have the right foundational items in order to set those clients up for success long into the future.
So, Joe, you've got a really unique, not just job, but perspective, right? So every time something goes wrong, every time you get a phone call, somebody's got a problem. You don't get people calling you telling you do a great job, right? They call you because something's not going the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me, what is that, not just what it feels like, but the problems you're seeing and the problems you're trying to address in your solution. Just let's talk about the problems for a minute.
Yeah, I grew up enjoying a certain kind of pain, and I think it does. It takes a special kind of person who really wants to go above and beyond and constantly be there for your clients and live for the thank you, right? I was telling Dave earlier that my first job was at Starbucks, and I really came to appreciate that what I enjoyed about that job when I was a teenager was when 1 in 100 clients would actually take a moment to appreciate the good experience I was creating for them and would say, thank you, this was really awesome, whatever it might be. And so I parlayed that over the years into doing tech support. And for the first 10, 15 years of my career, I focused on effectively bringing the Apple Store Genius Bar into the home for very high net worth families who could afford to pay a premium to get that kind of experience. Imagine shattering your iPhone and having a new one in your hands, fully loaded with all your data within a couple hours. That's what we would do. We kept all of our clients' credentials, password settings, preferences, everything, and we knew what they needed when they needed it and made sure to give it to them. We eventually started doing that with smart home systems. And I got to a place where I had a whole bunch of clients paying thousands of dollars a month to have access to our team of specialists instantly 24/7. Now that doesn't scale very well. That works for a very small number of clients, which I was lucky to be plugged into in the Boston market. And it made me appreciate, though, that this industry of smart home installers, they all have these kinds of clients, and they're all actually struggling with the same kind of scale problem of how do you deliver this kind of experience on an ongoing basis in a reliable way. Frankly, the industry is full of people like Kevin who care, but taking care to actually a level of execution where it happens consistently is really hard, especially when technology is the equivalent to an Apple TV, which is cheap to install, but breaks 10 ways to Sunday for reasons that have nothing to do with Kevin's team. Netflix could go down because of Amazon servers, and they still call Kevin, as if it's his fault, right? So again, you have to enjoy a special kind of pain to deal with that, right? And so back in 2016, we parlayed all of our experience into a platform to help integrators operationalize a better form of service for their clients. And one of the things we learned is that, to what Kevin was saying earlier, so much of this actually has to do with the way that you tee up the relationship from the beginning. The integrator who really just focuses on the technology and then believes that a good experience means that the owner picks up the phone every time is actually the one that struggled the most, in our experience, to create a great experience. The integrator who instead was able to prioritize a little bit more, this is all a balancing game, the process and the consistency and valued the ability to walk a client through a journey and really appreciated that aspect of their approach to business, those were the integrators that we found ended up creating better experiences. Because you could throw 24/7 support and you can throw, an Apple Store Genius-like experience, a really high EQ experience at any client interaction. But if those relationships weren't teed up properly by the sales team and the project management team ahead of time, it doesn't matter. And we felt it instantly when we would partner with new integrators. Instantly, within a week of picking up phone calls for them, we already got a sense for what that integrator was like with their clients. It was so easy to tell. And so, I can totally validate everything you said, Kevin, about just teeing up those relationships for success and thinking holistically around what a good service experience looks like, all the way from the beginning, starting with the sale.
Thanks. So, David, you're building luxury homes for a luxury buyer that have theoretically very high expectations of you and the process. When you turn the keys over, the technology is one piece of that puzzle.
Right.
And you've got homeowners who don't know how to open the garage door, let alone understand how to use the tech in the house. What is that like for you? How do you deal with that scenario? Do you lean on your subcontractors, or do you have your own processes? What's that look like?
So internally, as far as the house and all the systems outside of the tech piece of it, then we're going to all handle internally, right? We have a huge home orientation sheet we go through with the clients, we train them. But, by this time, they're just totally overwhelmed. They just finished building a house, and they've had to make all these decisions. And really, at the end of the day, we give them a really good, thorough training, but then we're available for calls, right? And so we try to do regular check-ins with them too, just to see if there's any issues and more questions they have. And sometimes we have to go back a second time to these clients and walk them through the same thing again, because it is a little bit overwhelming. When it comes to the smart home, the tech and the integration, we have to rely on a very solid partner. I mean, that is the only way that we're going to make it through this, because we've had situations where we didn't have a good integration partner, or the technology that was implemented was outside of the real sweet spot of that integrator, and we end up getting blamed for it, right? We had some Control 4 issues, and it was electrician and all sorts of stuff, and we spent a lot of time out there, and at the end of the day, the client was very unhappy with Control 4, and I know it wasn't Control 4's fault, and was upset with us. And it was because the integrator was not able to give them the level of support and care, white glove service that they really depended on.
Well, sometimes it is Control 4's fault, but not all. Are they in the room? Anyway.
I think it's also, just to that point, really valuable to appreciate that when it comes to technology, it is truly different as a subcontractor trade and a system in the home than many of the other trades or systems that we all think about. We think about mechanical, electrical, HVAC, and plumbing. And oftentimes, I can't tell you how many times I heard over my career clients saying, my other stuff doesn't break, why does tech break all the time? And the reality is that technology is not as consistent and reliable as flushing a toilet. It isn't. Right? You can install a toilet and properly do the plumbing and flush that toilet, 100,000 times over the next 10 years, and it won't break. And that will never happen in the tech space, not for a long time, because you have so many different brands coming together with so many different software variations. And everything is done bespoke. Even the things that aren't bespoke, just plugging in an Apple TV with a Sonos bar with a TV on the wall, you still have 10 different TVs with 10 different softwares running those TVs. And they all have various implementations of HDMI CEC to connect with one another. And then you have Sonos' software updates. And then you have Apple TV software updates. And then you have a different HDMI cable for different versions of HDMI. I mean, it's truly nuts. And then Apple sends out an update, and you can also all of a sudden watch 4K TV. And your HDMI cable can't support 4K, but hey, my neighbor just downloaded the update, and they got to see it. How come my stuff doesn't do it? I mean, it's really a lot more difficult and harder than plumbing or electrical. I don't mean to diminish those trades at all. I just mean we're not as standardized yet. We're not there. The industry is not there, and it may not be there for another decade. So just having a level of appreciation for the fact that technology has this long tail of problems yes, a better service department will be able to address those things for clients.
So, thanks. And
I mean, I have a washer and dryer that I had when I was in college, right? Not to age myself, but I'm 45. That's a pretty old washer and dryer. I have twins that are 13. I have a 2-year-old and somehow that thing runs 6 hours a day all the time, and it's still going, right? Which you can't get anything you buy today, right? On the technology side of things, as Joey had mentioned, it's just not there, right? You have a different version of Netflix and a different version of Hulu and a Roku device or an Apple device or a TV that streams that stuff coming out of it. There is a million different permeations on how technology can deploy into homes, and we have to be able to juggle how all that comes together, making sure that we've thought through all that stuff. And so not only does it become something that we're obviously having to support, but we also have to think about what's happening long into the future with these clients, right? What's going to change? Are they having their in-laws move in with them because of some health issues? Did they have another baby? Are they traveling more? How does that look? And how have you partnered with an integrator that can not only manage what's in place currently, but really look at what's happening in the next 5 to 7 to 10 years as their family changes?
Well, I promised the purpose was not to scare you from installing technology in your homes. It is complicated. And I think that this group, and I've had the benefit of knowing Kevin for a long time. We worked together for a little while. Some integrators are playing checkers while others are playing chess, right? It is the key to being successful as an integrator is thinking several steps ahead and anticipating what those issues would be. Paul, I want to ask you a little bit about, so Kevin, I'll come back to you too on how we do a good job of onboarding these clients. But once we think we've done our due diligence and help them understand how this is supposed to work, how can we provide them a resource, Paul, that would allow them to go back and revisit some of those conversations and understand how to reach a technical support person or bot or whatever it may be, how to reach an integrator, how to maybe solve some of their own issues? How do we keep that information in front of them and easy to access?
Absolutely. Well, one of the cornerstones of customer experience is ease. We have to create the ease of this whole experience, right? So when they have questions, they need to go, within 60 seconds be able to know exactly where to go, who to call, and what resources we can put at their fingertips. And unfortunately, the response time, which I think we have some slides on that somebody else is going to present, it's getting shorter and shorter. We don't have a lot of time now to survive, at least, and their happiness goes down over time. So figuring out a platform that they have at their fingertips, I think is crucial. And that's what we're doing right now with BuildCare. We're creating consumer education platforms. We do education platforms for field teams. And now we're doing education platforms that are on mobile devices. So right on their cell phones, they'll always have the app, which will have loads of resources available, and also ability to contact and get instant help, which we're going to demonstrate here in a little bit.
Yep. So essentially, everyone learns a little bit differently. Every person has their own way of receiving information. And Kevin, I think you've talked to me about how you adopted your process to fit that understanding, that not everyone's going to learn the same way, not everyone learns as quickly, not everyone, it's not necessarily even technical acumen, it's just a solid understanding of what they've got, right?
Yeah, because everything is different, right? Every home you build is completely different than the next home that you're going to build, whether that's finishes or floor plan or mechanical systems or whatever goes into it. It all modifies and changes. You may have something that you start with, but it's going to be customized. Similarly, we have the same thing, right? And to your point earlier, you said something that was really important, right? There's all this fear, and we've talked about all of these bad things that can possibly happen. The reality is that our industry has made great strides over the last several years where we are starting to standardize this stuff. And this stuff has we're at a point now where we can support it the right way. It's just like with a good set of architectural plans, you have to start with a good plan, a good ability to identify what we're actually going to accomplish and how that goes together. And once you've got that put together, then you can execute and we can get this stuff done and be able to document that and support it and train on it and make sure that we're keeping that going the right way. Internally for Bravas, we have over 400 employees nationally. We have about 15 design and engineering guys that are just dedicated to putting together systems specific to talk about all these HDMI cable issues. And I'm not technically as detailed as Joey is, but there's a lot. and so being able to talk about like what different parts, pieces, and widgets go together so that we can make sure that it's all coming right. As a company, when you look at working with integrators and figuring out the right way to take this technology piece and fitting that into your business model, think about companies that have not only the desire to really work with clients, provide customer service, are responsive, and who understand the value of what that is, but also have the ability to scale, right? You need to work with companies that have a group of people that can work on the technical side of it, a group of people that can work on the project management side of it, a group of people that can work on the service and support side of it, a good sales program or a good manager of that business who can communicate that very complex technology need out in a very normal way where a customer can accept and receive that information the right way as it kind of goes through it. So.
Yeah. Great example of some integrators who I connect with, sorry, Sean, with what Kevin just said, is I'll come across some integrators in the industry who, I mean, and Bravas is substantial, right? Bravas has the scale to do what I'm about to say properly, but there are many integrators who are just too small. They're 5 or 10 people, and I ask them, what brand of equipment do you typically install? What control system? And some integrators will say, oh, we're really focused, we just do Control 4. That doesn't mean it's right for every client. It just means we only focus on clients who are a right fit for Control 4. And that's excellent from a service perspective because not only do they know that product really well from a sales and design perspective, but then they also know it really well from a service perspective. What scares me is when I encounter those same small-sized integrators who say, oh yeah, we do it all, and we do whatever our clients want to do. And they may have the engineering and sales chops to do it right on the front end, but when you ask them, how are you going to do it on service, you get a pause. Right? Because trying to keep a service team that needs to be responsive all the time, properly trained on all these permutations, is next to impossible. So you really need a smart integrator, right? As Sean said, some are going to be playing chess and some are going to be playing checkers, and you want to make sure you understand who you're working with and hopefully partner with the types of integrators who are thinking this all the way through and paying attention to the entire experience.
Well, I'm going to go right back to you, Joey. So you brought some statistics with you.
Yeah, we've on the support side, from a solutions perspective, we've learned by doing this over the last several years that when you create a great, coherent, and cohesive experience across the team, you're able to actually solve 55% of issues remotely, which is pretty powerful. Yeah. It's a far cry from where we were a decade ago. There's a lot of troubleshooting tools that go into place. Now, that stat actually ranges quite a bit across the different partners that we have. There are some partners where that stat is as low as 20%, and then there are some partners where that's even higher. And a lot of it comes down to, well, did they actually put in the right troubleshooting systems? Did they actually give us the tools to be able to remotely monitor and take care of things? And some of it also has to do with, did they actually set the expectations appropriately with the client? Clients who don't have expectations set and they had to call 3 different numbers before they got to support, do you think that they're patient enough to even do remote troubleshooting by the time they get to the right team? Not at all. But the client who knows the right number to call right off the bat, we go to the next slide, actually the third one, go one more after this.
There we go.
The one that can call right off the bat and they can get an instant pickup, where 75% of the calls are picked up in less than a minute, and average email response is less than 7 minutes. Right? Imagine that experience. That client is way more in the mood to engage in some troubleshooting. So I'm not even talking about troubleshooting tools. I'm not even talking about the technology. I'm talking about Kevin as a salesperson and this project management team. Did they tee up those clients properly for a good experience? And then if you do that successfully, go back one slide for me, Sean. If you do that successfully and do that well, you actually achieve what I think is the most important statistic for support on the tech side, which is de-escalation. Yeah. Every issue, when a client calls up, you guys know this, it's an emergency. Now, when your toilet's leaking, it's really an emergency. But to a lot of these clients, when 1 out of their 10 TVs isn't working, it's also an emergency, and it's their prerogative to think that way. In order to de-escalate that, though, you've got to respond quickly. You respond quickly, and you have a good chance at not just solving it. Remember I said 55% are solved remotely. How do we get the other 40% to be de-escalated and no longer be urgent and no longer require an instant truck roll? You listen. You be empathetic. You help them provide workarounds. Maybe their cable box is broken, but we help them stream that same show on Apple TV. They just didn't think about it. And so when you have a creative support team that really cares about that experience, you find a way. You guys all know this. You find a way to make it better for the client in the moment. And you can do the same thing on the tech side.
So, David, I assume you would agree with Joey's contention there. So how important is it to be responsive and not just effective? So is it more important to be responsive and empathetic, or is it more important to just fix everything immediately?
Yeah, I think the whole response is critical, right? I mean, it's really top of mind, right? So somebody's having an issue, they're having a TV issue, they might have guests over, there can be a lot of pressure on them, or they just have their teenage daughters ranting at them, like I did sometimes. And it's really something that's really important, but being able to answer that call right immediately, to me, would be the most critical thing. And having a creative team for workarounds also, because I've had situations where I've had a tech issue and I wasn't able to get what I wanted to get done, but they had a workaround for me. And I was able to go ahead and still watch the show or get it working. And I was totally pleased they could roll the truck next week.
And I think everyone here will empathize with me that when you're a small business, a small integrator, and you've got a technician who's your lead guy who finished a project, and it's Friday night, it's 7:30, and he's out to dinner with his family, and the client calls because something isn't working properly. He's probably not the most patient person on the phone. He's probably not fully engaged in the conversation. He's probably not willing to dedicate the time it takes to come up with a good solution that's good for the client. They probably appreciate the fact that he's taking time away from his family, but they probably do not really love the solution. So having a full-time, on-call, on-board, focused on service solution is probably a great thing. We're going to move on to sort of what the future might look like here. And what I wanted to do in this session, because I've got so many smart people sitting here next to me, is talk about what this, not just what it looks like now, but what it could look like, what the future of service and support will be. I know, Paul, you've had a lot of thoughts on this. We've had quite a few good conversations about it. One of the products you're working on is an augmented reality solution. Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're entering the age now where this device becomes a lot more powerful for doing exactly what you just said, which is to respond quickly, to be able to do remote break fix. I thought those stats were outstanding. So great numbers there that should be eye-opening for all of us. And if we can leverage technology, we can really get more done. I think we're just at the beginning of what remote fix could look like, and AR could offer us a real interesting solution. So we're going to demonstrate some early tools that are here now, that are active, that you could deploy, and they're working really well. I think AI, as we all know, that's kind of taken over, right? Everybody's worried about it, but I think the great point that was made by Karim Lakhani, he's a Harvard professor, is that AI won't replace humans. It's humans with AI will replace humans. Think about that, right? Humans with using AI will be the ones that are going to take jobs away, not AI all on its own. If you let AI run wild, doesn't do real well, at least now.
Can you give me an example of augmented reality in use in
Sure.
a service application?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to do a demonstration here at the end, but simply using your cell phone camera, being able to see what the customer's seeing with them holding up their phone. That could be going to a technician around the world who is really specialized in this particular problem, as you pointed out, and they can see right away, okay, yeah, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. They could point on his screen, and then it would show up on the customer's cell phone. They would be drawing, and they would see it. So it's hard to describe, much easier to execute, and we do have some video that we're gonna share. But I think that's where augmented reality, I think, really has a practical application. You know, this whole idea of headsets and things like that, I don't think that's the next step. I mean, it's coming, but you know, is your customer really going to don a headset and look at their Control 4 panel? Probably not, right? That's not going to happen. At least not my vision of this is going to happen. But they will grab their cell phone and point it at it, right? And if you make that process easy, simple, you know, I think it's viable. I think it really does, and we're seeing it happen right now.
Awesome. So we mentioned AI. Joe, you and I have had a couple conversations about this. How does AI make its way into the service experience for a customer?
Yeah, so we've got some really interesting technology developments that are happening on the support side, and some of it's AI, some of it's just when you create a vertically integrated support solution. When I say that, what I mean is a service department that has a piece of software that is purposely designed for it, not just some generic software. So I'll start with some really basic examples. When I said that there's a 75% pickup rate in less than a minute, what's the other side of that that's really important is that it's picked up by the right person. It's not just picked up by a receptionist and then passed over to a technical person. So some really basic things. Can your system, or does the integrator you're working with, does their system know which client is calling in, what level of support they're eligible for, and do they route appropriately right off the bat? Or does that client have to first talk to some administrative person who maybe then validates and maybe then gets them to the right person? Because in the moment of fire and of urgency, when something's not working, they just want to talk to the right person. So we've built those platforms, we've built those solutions so that now for our partners, our integrators, when their clients call in, we know exactly if that number or that email address is associated with a certain level of support. And frankly, if they're paying a higher tier to get faster support, they get cut right to the front of the line and they get that faster level of support. So that's one basic example. Another example on the AI front is imagine an automated agent in the background, an automated assistant for the support agent. So what can be happening right now is that AI will actually be listening to the phone call. And live, as it's listening to the call, it's hearing Mr. Smith say, oh yeah, you had a technician out here 2 weeks ago and my Apple TV wasn't working. And immediately the automated assistant's actually pulling up the ticket history and feeding it to the agent right in front of them and saying, yep, this is what happened last time. And it's happening live in front of them. Imagine all those times when we call Comcast and they put us on hold for 5 minutes. AI replaces that. AI feeds that information to the agent so that the agent has the information they need, the specialist has the info they need to now help the client in the moment with the context. And then it can also create a better experience. When Mr. Smith calls up and AI can immediately look up in ticket history and say, hey, here's a few like soft things that you should know. Dave and his family just came back from Africa last week because he mentioned that on his last phone call or his last email, right? And he also mentioned that this TV is a really important one because his mother stays and lives in the house with him. Right, so knowing that as a support specialist and being able to develop that empathy and build that rapport is also what buys you that engagement with the client to get to a better solve rate. So AI is going to be really powerful, and to your point, it's going to be AI plus humans that replace humans. And it's also going to frankly replace those companies that look at AI as a cost reducer. Right? We don't want to look at this stuff as just a way to reduce costs. We want to look at it actually primarily as a way to increase the experience, right? Improve the experience, I mean. And then if it also happens to save time, it will. That's great.
So before we hop here, I went too far on my slides here. So Kevin, we're looking at AI, we're looking at AR, we're looking at customer service experiences. We're focusing on our industry right now, but these experiences are taking place in other industries, IT, I'm sure Google, Apple, Facebook, those the big companies will lead the way in terms of their ability to respond in a way that Joey just described. So what does the future of support look like for an integrator? How's an integrator going to do this? What are the expectations going to be? What do you see coming?
I think it actually kind of happens in a couple different ways, right? So part of service and support is not just making sure things are running and functioning, but it's also tailoring things to fit clients' needs as those are changing. And I think the ability to have smart AI, smart technology built in that can do things like if you're going on a vacation, right? Being able to hit a button that says I'm going on vacation, have it take a snapshot of how you've lived in your home for the past 2 weeks so that it can kind of make that home feel lived in, make it look the same, have it kind of randomized, right? We don't want the old Home Alone thing where they go away and they're going, oh, at 8 o'clock it turns on here, and at 8:05 it's over here, it's a Johnson's, and it goes down the street, right? That it has that feel. And so I think that the systems are going to start to employ this, and it's going to start to modify things to fit how you're living in your home, how you utilize your system, how all that goes together. And instead of having to rely on a really, really, really smart technician to do all that work, you're going to have the support of AI that sits behind that technician to make sure that we've done that, right? Understanding what the client's needs are, employing the technology to be deployed quickly, and making sure that it's running and being able to feed that information out to a support mechanism, I think is really the end game, right? Not just making sure it runs, but making sure that it tailors and it modifies based off of their life as they're moving forward.
So
Just wanted to add too that Tesla's a really great example too of how AI is going to affect service. A Tesla self-diagnoses itself. It self-identifies when it has a problem and throws it right up on the screen. It says, would you like to schedule an appointment on Thursday at 2, 3, or 5? These are the availabilities. That we're not there yet with our home automation, but it could be, right? That AI is now sniffing for problems, sniffing for, oh, you don't have the right cable for this next gen upgrade for 4K, but it preemptively identified it already and mailed a cable. So we're just scratching the surface yet on what this looks like, but it's going to be dramatic. It really is.
So we're starting to talk about some precedents that are going to be set, David. So as a builder, does this scare you that your clients are going to expect a higher level of support than the traditional home builder has been providing through the years up until now?
In terms of tech or in terms of just building homes?
In general. Both.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, if you look at what happened to us in the last 10, 15 years with all the DIY stuff and all the shows and all the HGTV, you know, people think instantly we can have these renderings with these great things and be able to change and interchange colors and materials like live in front of them, which we really can't because it's pretty expensive to make it look like that, right? But I think in terms of service, I was thinking about, you know, what y'all talking about with AI. And I get excited to think about AI could be the first line of defense before it hits the service team, right? That you could maybe we get to a point where AI, we have like a Jarvis in our house, right? Like from Iron Man. And we're like, hey, Jarvis, my wife's a good example. She leaves, I leave town, and when my son leaves town, and she can't turn on Apple TV. She can't because we do it every time, right? And so she can go, hey, Jarvis, how do I turn on Apple TV? And it's going to give her the instructions. Or, hey, Jarvis, I'm not able to connect this TV in the mother-in-law's room, and it's going to give you 3 or 4 different things to try. And if it doesn't work, then it goes, well, let me call support, and it calls the support directly. I mean, I think about that, what AI could do for just making the user experience better at our clients' houses, and I think it's incredible.
What's cool, I can tell you that Bravas can actually install a system where you can say, hey, Jarvis, can you turn on the TV? And it just will do that.
There we go.
So
It's
now
already
you
there.
don't even have to remember. So we're already getting here. That is here right
Already.
now. That's
Already resolved one problem. Paul, I know you have some things you wanted to show us.
Okay.
Some stuff you've been working on.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an example of a DIY AI tool. This is actually live right now. This is provided by our partner Iris CX. They're a Canadian company, and they're integrating with BuildCare. They're providing a tech engine within. You guys can use this here. I'll show you a QR code. But this is where a consumer has had a request. They had a problem. They had one click, no download, no app, and they were able to light up the app. It lights up their camera, and now they're showing the system. Now, there's no human on the other end of this. This is just AI running right now, and it's walking them through the steps to diagnose the problem, capturing everything in video, what's happening, and we'll provide break fix recommendations right there to the consumer. So this is like, you know, I go from problem to solving within 60 seconds, right? This is available right now, and AI is recognizing things. It spotted something on the counter, or it identified the counter, and so it's using AI vision to detect problems and see issues and then provide the recommendations. So this is here today.
Chatbot.
Yeah, this is next generation chatbot that's using not just chatbot where you're just pumping in text, but it's seeing things.
That's right.
Yeah, which is a big deal, right? That's a big, big deal, and it's happening real time on remote, which is also really big deal because we haven't been able to do that with the advent of 5G, and we're now talking even faster speeds. These types of technologies are real, and so you can actually deploy this today. And so we did put a QR code, so if you want to scan that right now, you can do a Control 4 self-automated AI tech call if you want right now. So go ahead, get your phones out and hit it, and you guys can go through what we call a guide. And so it's an automated step-by-step to diagnose what's going on with your Control 4 system.
So how good of a job can we do on onboarding homeowners so that they don't have this miscommunication between residents and the home?
It's critical, right? I mean, we've all been, you know, whether it's your husband, your wife, your children, whatever it is, right? They call you up and they're like, well, I can't get this done. I need help with this, right? And one person in the family knows how to do something and the rest of them don't. At Bravas, we've actually hired a guy whose job is specific in different areas, right? So it's not just one person, but we have a designated person for each project that we have. Its job is to go in and actually train the client on how to use the system. And we reach out 90 days in advance as we're tracking the progress of where this is going, and we're locking in an appointment to do this so that they can move into the home, just like you would do a reveal when the house is finished and the client's coming in to see everything that's there. We're doing the same thing with our technology. We're walking them in, we're showing them how to use it, we're discussing it with the kids and the husband and wife, and you know, maybe a parent who's there, or a housekeeper, or you know, a babysitter, somebody who's there to kind of watch things. Whoever's going to be using that system, we are training on how to do that. We start with the things that are the most important. And so we'll talk about things like lighting and audio and TV and internet and the things that go there. And then as we get further into that, depending on what the limitations are of the client, we'll go into things like access control or other parts and products as a second follow-up, maybe later, because different people have different tolerances on how much they can absorb and go through. We follow that up with actually written detailed instructions, and we also have all these tutorials that are on our website as well, so that they can go find all that information on their own when they want to go back and look at it as well. And so it's critical, though. To your point, it's incredibly important to make sure that everybody understands how to utilize that technology and that it's deployed the right way. The second part of that is to make sure that we've actually set them up for success at the very beginning, right? It really goes back to the beginning. It's making sure that they understand exactly what they're getting. It's making sure that we pick products and services that are, one, intuitive and simple to use, and so that's really important, and then making sure that they've adopted that and absorbed that information the right way, and then setting up follow-up appointments after the fact to make sure that we're checking in on them with that as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I think there's a lot left to cover here. So like I said, if you have any questions or thoughts on this and you want to reach out, I'm sure any of these panelists would love to hear from you. Thanks, everyone. It was great to see everybody. I hope this event was everything you expected to be and hopefully a little bit more. If you found this great and you want to invite your colleagues and friends to attend future events, I'd appreciate that. I love meeting new people. And if there's anything any of us can do, please let us know. Have fun at the rest of the event.